back here again, and with a difficult vulnerable machine called C0m80. Actually, this vulnerable machine is a bit difficult, and I'm gonna walk you through how to get access to this vulnerable machine in a very basic way. So I'm gonna explain to you the steps. Okay, I have already solved the challenge, and I'm gonna explain you the steps and the necessary um, tools that you need to use in order to get access to the machine. First, after scanning the machine, okay, and exploring different ports and protocols on the vulnerable machine, I figured out here that I have a directory here with a login page, as you can see, and the software is Mantis bug tracker. So here, after a bit of search on exploit database, I found out that the Mantis bug tracker, or the version that's being run on the vulnerable machine, has a CVE vulnerability in a way that if you type here verify, okay, here you see that you need to specify the ID. Okay, now the vulnerability in the exploit database said that if you type ID, for example 1, and let me go to the vulnerability website. Okay, Metasploit. So here's the vulnerability is password reset vulnerability, and here's the explanation down there. So the proof of concept is actually okay here. So if you type the ID 1, for example 2, 3, and the parameter confirm hash, leave it empty. Okay. See here, you can see the username to which the ID attached, the attached ID, and you can reset the password for this username. After searching with different IDs, okay, and try to reset different passwords for different users, I ended up that I can only, so if we type for Alice, so I could only reset the password associated with the username Alice. So if you type Alice, Alice, for example, leave it Alice, and click on proceed. Now you have access to the admin panel on the bug tracker. Okay, now after a bit of search and a bit of poking around the website here, I figured out that there is, if you go to report issue and sorry, view issues, and here you click on best FTP server, and the issue we need to go to look over is remove insecure features. So if we click on this, Now it says that there is some insecure feature in the reporting feature is old and outdated. So Bob needs to some kind of remove or update this. So here you get a hint that there is some insecure feature in the best FTP server software here. So if you try to search for the file, uh, let's click here. Okay, now here is the file, or here is the best FTP server file that has the old reporting feature or the vulnerable feature. If you download this file, okay, from here, and you will see that the file is, where's the file? Okay, here's the file. The actual file before conversion is in backup format. So if you convert this format to some kind of binary, I used a script for this purpose that converts the hex to binary. Okay, so I ended up with the file which is FTP binary. I extracted the executable file along with the DLL file that's needed for the DLL file. Okay, here. So we have the FTP executable file. We can now have the flag or have the root access to the virtual machine in two ways. The hard way is using reverse engineering, trying to search for command injection vulnerability in the executable buffer overflow or stack overflow, or try to get hints from this file. Okay, so if I open a radar for this here, reverse engineering, it's long. Okay. Now let's minimize those. Okay. Clear R2. Okay. Let's first analyze the file. Okay. Now let's print the functions and assembly instructions for the file. So here's the kind of assembly instructions of the FTP executables. Now let's grab the strings. Oops, nope. Okay. Let's see what we might have in the strings here. You will see some hints about the behavior of this file and how you can exploit any vulnerable feature or the reporting feature. So here it starts from here, and if we go down, okay. Now we might need to print all of the strings, I think. So let's try with okay. Now from this stack of strings, we need to see, you will see the port on which the FTP server is running, and you will see instructions on how to use the reporting feature. I'm trying to well, let's try to have those strings in another way. For example, okay, now if we go here, okay, now here as you can see, starting best FTP server, and it's showing you how to operate the program, and here you can see the version number and the port on which the program is running. So actually this port is a port on which the FTP server is running, and here it's telling you how to use the report link feature. Actually, to report a vulnerability or to report a bug to Bob, you use the report link here. Okay, so if you go to the actual program here using Netcat, okay, and the vulnerable machine IP address along with the port, I connected to the vulnerable machine, and using report link as shown in the strings, I have been presented with insert link in order to put my link or that supposedly have the bug that will be sent to Bob. So actually this kind of client-side attack, you can insert link here, and once the link is sent to Bob, it's going to be open in the vulnerable machine or the using Bob's browser. So to exploit this, I use Metasploit as usual for this kind of vulnerabilities, and I'm going to show you what type of vulnerability I used. I don't think not this. Okay, now here, as it's the client-side attack, you need to use some kind of browser exploit multi-browser vulnerability. Okay, so I use Firefox protocol C0m80 request. Okay, specified the L host. Okay, let me. Okay, here specifying the L host, the L port, and then exploit, and this link. Here's the link. Okay, now you need to have this link, okay, inserted in the insert link here. So here you put the link of that has been generated by Metasploit. Okay, you put this link here, and once the link is sent, it's going to be opened by Bob's browser, and you will have MetaPredator session opened in your machine. Okay, so once a MetaPredator session open in our machine, okay, here I have Metasploit session open here, as you can see, and the next step is getting root access to the virtual machine, or by escalating your privilege. Okay, so after a bit of search in the desktop and directories, I ended up with a password manager file. Okay, this file. Now, after downloading this file to my machine, as you can see here, and after opening this file, I saw here, you need to log in to the vault. Okay, this is Bob's vault. Okay, now you log in with username Alice and password Alice, and you will see here some kind of password manager or password vault. Okay, so every service you have a password for backups, for Windows XP, for whatever. And as a challenge is saying that we need to pretend to have an RDP session to the vulnerable machine. Here's the credentials that we need to use in order to log into the vulnerable machine. Okay, and so the next step is logging to the vulnerable machine, and here's the vulnerable machine here. Okay, I log in using the credentials I have shown you. Okay, and the vulnerable machine as it appears from here, as you can see. I open terminal, okay, from here, and after searching to find the directory that I have the FTP server here, I figured out that I don't have permissions to browse the file backup. Okay, so I figured out that I need to switch users for this. Okay, and previously I have found a file or a directory in here. There's a directory SSH. If you browse to this directory, you will see um, let me go down. Okay, you will see here a bit of RSA keys. Okay, so I figured out that I need to log in or to have an established SSH connection. Okay, so and previously I've found that Alice is a super user on this vulnerable machine. So in order to have root access, we need to have Alice logged in or use the username Alice in and establish an SSH connection. So here I logged in using Alice. Okay, it's moving. Okay, now here is the username is Alice. Okay, the port is 65,122, and you can find this port from the SSH configuration. Okay, on the vulnerable machine here, I use the RSA key that's found on the SSH directory, and you have to put this password here. So the password backups here, you have to have this password, okay, and insert this password in when you're required to enter the password for Alice. So after logging in, okay, here, as you can see, and I remembered that when scanning the vulnerable machine, let me scan it for you, we have an NFS file share that's running on the vulnerable machine. This NFS file share needs to be explored. Okay, so I use a script called nfspyh that enumerates the NFS shares and mount the NFS. As you can see here, the scan, there is some kind of here RBC bind, and we have here also NFS ACL. So the next step is trying to enumerate this NFS share and access the NFS share. So here I used a tool called NFSpy. Okay, here. Okay, now this tool is used to explore the NFS shares and manipulate them actually. So the right command is NFSpy. Wait. Okay. Now the command is nfspy sh. The server is 192.168, the IP of the virtual machine, and the NFS share that's mounted is on this directory. How I figured out that the NFS share is on this directory actually, if you use nmap, nmap and use the nmap engine for this to mount all the shares on the virtual machine. Oops. Some kind of wrong, I think. We have something wrong. Um, okay, let's try again. I think we're missing something here, so let's try unmap. And what's the problem with this? Okay. Let's go back to the share here. Now, actually this tool, if you type help, you can see a list of commands that you can use in order to manipulate the NFS share on this directory actually, that I don't know right now why I'm not being able to enumerate this directory using nmap. Now I change my directory to desktop and then upload a file. Now what the file is doing, will open a shell to my Metasploit shell to my machine, to my my current machine. Why I'm using this way? Because the NFS share here, okay, is anything is written into the B backup folder here, or the backup directory is written in root permissions. Okay, so if I put a file here and execute that file, I'm gonna execute that file in root permissions, and then I'm gonna have Metasploit shell on my machine in root permissions. Okay, so I use put commands to put my final exploit, or you can generate this exploit using MSF okay, so here's my payload. Okay, and on the vulnerable machine you need to execute this payload actually in the SSH session that you have established with the username Alice. So actually Alice has a permissions to execute whatever file in the backup directory. And then you're gonna have, so let me close this. You're gonna have another Metasploit shell access session, sorry. If we, okay. This is the Metasploit session from the Firefox exploit, and this is the Metasploit session from the payload that we have uploaded in the pkb directory and executed this file as a root permissions. So if we type sessions -i1 get to ID, actually this is the ID of the root, as you can see here. So if I drop shell, now who am I and host name, oops, this is Bob, this the another background, to okay, this is Alice, as you can see here, which has the root permissions on the vulnerable machine. Now, the hard way to do this challenge is by reverse engineering the file. I'm gonna show you in a basic way or basic hints how to do this. Actually, here in only debugger, you will see. Let's see the file, the instructions here. At D. Okay. Now here the program starts from here, and at some point in the memory, an instruction, I couldn't recall the memory address for this, but I'm gonna try to find it. Okay, here's the report feature, and here's the report link, the beginning of the report link feature to get executed by the user at this memory. As you can see here, the instruction to move the value into the stack, the value of the memory, the value that's written on the address in the stack pointer. So here after this, it's gonna open an HTTP or use HTTPS in order to open the URL that you supply to the report link, as you can see here in this address. Okay, now after opening the URL, you can see here it's opening Explorer. Okay, and then it performs some sort of make directories, and the funny thing is here. The funny thing starts here. As you can see, it performs a series of commands, and one of the commands is cd, as you can see here. So it's changed directories. So after it opens an HTTP or HTTPS, it performs a series of commands. So I realized that we can, let me show you how. If we, for example, Okay, now the file, the reporting feature starts when you write a URL, for example, Google. Okay, now once you Gook, once you supply the CRL to the reporting feature, it will instruct or send this URL to be browsed by the vulnerable machine's browser using HTTP or HTTPS. Then it's going to perform the series of commands that I have shown you here in all debug. Okay, now as the flow of the instructions here is starting some kind of commands after opening an HTTP or HTTPS session, and as those commands are being supplied by the user without any input filtering, as you can see here, it's like cd command, no filtering for commands. So I can here and for example, using Meterpreter, okay, once we have a Meterpreter shell, we can upload some kind of file, and using the vulnerability or the command injection vulnerability in the file here, we can instruct the machine to run our file. For example, suppose we upload the file in the desktop on the vulnerable machine. So I can, the user is for example Bob and desktop, and here is my exploit. This way, if we supply the URL in the reporting feature, it's gonna execute or browse the HTTP as I show you here, and then it's gonna exploit this. It's gonna execute this command or browse to the directory where at which the exploit executable file exists, and it's gonna open Meterpreter shell to your machine. The other way is we have here a bunch of string copy, as you can see here, which is a hard way is making some kind of buffer overflow vulnerability and overflow the program with parameters, and then establish or put your exploit in the return address to have a shell or session back to your machine. And that's it. Thank you for watching.